Thanks for meeting me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for the invitation.
Thanks for, kind of helping me. Be patient with me as I'm figuring out what I'm doing, because I don't know what I'm doing. But I don't let that stop me.
Well, if it's any consolation, you've done this more than I have. This is my first time. This is entirely new to me.
I have done other podcasts, and I found that I really like doing podcasts. I like talking to people, and I like talking to new people, and one of those questions I feel as adults that we all have to figure out, and there's no clear answer, which is one, how do you make friends? And two, how do you have good conversations with people when everyone's so busy? It's like, hey, meet you at the bar. We don't hear what you're saying. We go out for coffee, and I guess that's an answer. But yeah, it's just, to me, it's always a quandary. Like, I like talking to people, but I don't ever have the seeming sense to have good conversations with people. So I'm going to do podcasts, and that give people a reason to come and talk to me.
That's cool. And like you said about the bars, I'm half deaf anyway, so I'm hard of hearing. And I also don't, for whatever reason, I can't speak loudly like, so no one can hear me. Because I just can't quite get the volume out for whatever reason.
Yeah.
That scene is not very, very good for me when it comes to actually talking to people.
Yeah.
See, this is perfect, though, because like what you just said, then you actually get to devote one-on-one time to someone.
Well, and that's another thing. Is like, we go out to the bars, but then there's just all this distraction, and then, people feel obligated to drink because you're at the bar, and then conversations degrade into mumblings of madmen.
So instead, we'll drink coffee and just who knows where that's going to lead.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to tell you, when I first met you, you told me that you were a mindset coach, and I was super intrigued about that because me and my mind get along like water and oil. Like, sometimes we mix well, and sometimes it's a constant fight. So whenever you said you were a mindset coach, I'm like, we're going to get along famously, because I'm going to pick your brain and figure out how to function mine. So what is it that you do? You own Juvenesque? What does Juvenesque do?
Juvenesque is a coaching house, a coaching practice that I started after my formal training. Most of my adult life, I have been a professional engineer. I still hold those licenses, and I still help out some companies in the area that they get a little backlog, they need a little help to work through, and I help them do those things. I realized I went into engineering because I didn't want to deal with people. That's a literal statement I made to myself. It was after working at a country club in Louisville, Kentucky. And that was my first retail-facing experience, first interacting with the public. I learned a lot, and it thoroughly sucked. I even hated golf after that. I didn't even want to touch a club. It was just that. I didn't want to be around it. So it was after that I said, you know what? The people experience, I'm over it. I don't want to do that.
I like George Carlin's perspective on people. He says he loves people individually, but once you get more than one, he hates them.
Things do get more complex when the more people are involved. So I went into engineering because I didn't want to deal with people. All right. I was young at the time, and we all harbor those illusions when we're young about how the world works. And of course, throughout my career, I discovered that good heavens, there are people all over the place. The world of engineering, a consulting engineer, it's festering with people.
Yeah.
From the people you work with, to the clients, to the contractors, or the public. If you have never stood up in front of a very unhappy public gathering because something's going on with your project, you have to live, man. It is an experience. But as And maybe I didn't want to deal with people because I didn't feel that I had the skills. It was easier to just simply withdraw and be me and kind of let everyone else figure itself out. But the I guess age brings wisdom sometimes. What
That's what they say.
So hope. But as my life went on, I realized that I needed to be better at being me.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no one else was going to do it for me. But there are shortcuts that there are. I wanted to be better at being myself, and that really started also had a brother-in-law who was in a similar track, and he started me off with a book called "Thou Shalt Prosper" by a young named Rabbi Daniel Lapin, and that really kind of kicked off a sort of process of self-discovery, and that it continues to this day. You've heard the expression, the more you learn, the more you can learn.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. And just building on the framework and the understanding and the experiences that I've had, and going back, and it's a process of reevaluating how I have my behavior and how I presented myself to the people around me. And Juvenes, the tagline is renew your mind, renew your life. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We all have facts in our lives, and sometimes they're good facts, sometimes they're bad facts. They're unhappy facts, but they are facts and they are ours. And what I am come to believe, and the more I work with it, the more I believe it's true. It's not the facts of our lives that get in our way, that make us unhappy, that cause the anxiety and all the issues and unhappiness that we have. It's the story that connects those facts.
Well, and I've heard that we are the stories that we tell ourselves.
That is largely true.
And I don't know where I've seen this, probably on TikTok. Mostly it consumes a lot of my time. But, or at least a lot of my but you have a choice. You can either tell yourself the story that everyone hates me, that everyone's garbage, or you can tell yourself everyone's great, everyone's out here to help me. And both can be true until there's evidence of one of the other. And so if there's no evidence that people aren't out there to help you, then why not just believe that people are out there to help you? And the ones that aren't going to help you, they'll make themselves, they'll let you know.
And it seems like there are people who, it's like there's a spectrum of reaction, like you said there. There are people who will tend to, put the worst face on a given situation. Others who will just sort of muddle through and say, easy come, easy go. And then others who will tend to have a positive outlook.
Yeah.
And something the other day, if you think back to when you were 8 years old, give or take, and then ask yourself 3 questions. What did you do to keep or make friends? How did you behave? What were your actions? What did you do to feel safe? And then what did you do to get a reward? And those habits, those actions, that behavior that we had roughly around that time, those patterns carry into our adult life.
Okay.
And whether or not they influence how we respond to people, the people around us, how we respond to situations, conditions, circumstances. Those tend to be our go-to modes of coping with the world around us.
Okay. 8 years old.
And by that time, my understanding is that we are our behaviors are largely fixed. Those are the habits that we have learned.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things Juventus in dealing with people, that
Is that how you came up with Juventus? Is just a reminder of that 8-year-old that's made all these plans for the future?
Heavens no. No, I came up because I also have a minor in study abroad and can make my. And what I liked about the word Juvenes was in the Romance languages, French, Italian, Spanish, and so on. The JUV part of the word typically refers to youth.
Yeah.
Look at the word our English word rejuvenate.
Yeah.
It's or juvenile. It's all in there. And so I was looking for something that was like a renewal or rebirth. Juveniles.
See, and I find that interesting because I took Latin in college, and I was also doing philosophy. And what I found is that if you have a pretty broad understanding of Latin stem words, you can break down someone's argument just by breaking down the words that they're using. And that's a good way to get ahead on someone else's argument. What is it that we're actually talking about? That is, if you're not using words to be precise, then I don't know communicate. That's what words do. Precision. I run into people who they'll say one thing, you know what I mean. It's like, yeah, but you didn't say it.
And sometimes even I don't know what you mean. It's more usually this.
Right.
You usually mean something different.
But then there's a guy that since you tell me you didn't count it. Anyways, okay.
No, did not know.
Okay. Well, yes. That's fair. But no, so
Case in point.
one of the words that I learned when learning about John Dewey was idiosyncratic. When I first came across this word, had no idea what it meant.
It's a $5 word.
The great thing is it means whatever you want. But no, idiosyncratic just basically means that you have the traditional meaning of the word, and then you have a nuanced version of how you want that word to mean going forward in your argument. And so, if you are going to use an idiosyncratic term, you have to define it. So it's fine, sure. If you want to say one word and mean another, you just have to define it. I'm not saying you can't use that word. I'm just saying that in order for us to effectively communicate, I gotta know what you're talking about. Which means you have to define it.
So rather than calling a rose, I can call it a daffodil. But it's still a rose by any other.
Right. Well, you could call it a flower. Yeah. So, no, I appreciate your etymological description that you came up with today. Etymology, I find fascinating. It's usually if I don't know a word, because I want to know the history of a word. How did we get here with this word? And has it always meant what we heard?
Sometimes no.
For example, the word Senate. Are you familiar with this? So, the word Senate currently, society is kind of someone who's pessimistic, always looking at the downside of things. The word Senate comes from an ancient Greek word, like Senex or something. Anyways, it was dark. And what made it popular was the Senex, which was an ancient Greek philosophy, which they believe that I ran out.
Is that what they believe?
Is it working on your side?
Since on me speaks.
Oh. So it's just my side. That's all right. It's still recording, so I'll just be out there on it. anyway, so cynic means it means dog. So the cynics believed that the life of a dog was the most pure life. So to live like a dog is why they realized the dog philosophers. I enjoy this so much that Diogenes of Sinope was a famous cynic philosopher, and I've named my dog Diogenes of Sinope. Just um, but so basically, the thought was like a dog doesn't care where he sleeps. Dog doesn't care where he poops, where he eats. Mostly doesn't care what he eats. He kind of just is. He's in the moment. He loves everybody, but he has sharp instincts, so he knows when he comes across somebody who's untrustworthy. And so they just kind of viewed that a dog tended to be living the most ideal life. And Diogenes of Sinope, there's a famous story where Alexander the Great had heard of Diogenes and wanted to meet him. And Diogenes is sitting out sunbathing, and Alexander the Great comes up to him and says, "Hey, I'm heard about you. I want to learn things from you." And Diogenes says, "Sure, but could you move? You're in the sunlight." So basically, the most powerful man in the known world, Diogenes, just kind of treats him as a burden because he's he's in the way of the sun. So that's kind of the mentality. Is like there's no one higher, there's no one lower. We're all just being here and trying to get the most out of life.
And that, I can agree with that. That is one thing that I'm coming to appreciate more and more is that it actually ties into I'm a trainer in what's called the Outlook Mindset, so the Arbinger Institute. And so working geniuses, facilitator, at lunch, in the table group, things, but and I'm working with an organization now about teaching soft skills to engineers. And at the end of the day, where you're talking about, say, a Simon Sinek, an Ed Schein, Dan Coyle, Matt Lencioni, pick your expert. It all comes down to, when we're dealing with other people, the capacity, our ability to see the other person as an actual human being, as a real person. They have their great things about them. They have their flaws. They have their challenges. They have their dreams. They have their trauma, just as we all do. And what I do at Juvenes is I want to help people actually relate to see others as people too, and also themselves. We can get caught up in, there were so many things, the ways of viewing ourselves and the world around us, our facts, in ways that are frankly just not at all helpful.
Whenever I was in college, professors kind of walk around with they're already experts in the world, so they're the experts or the experts. But with my professors, I all understood that they put their pants on the same way. And so some people, they think that professors in the way. I don't want to ask them questions or whatever. This is my access. Like, they're interested in the subject that they would be teaching. So let's go ask them questions about this subject.
I can argue with that.
But no, a lot of people I feel like put authority figures on pedestals. And then that pedestal makes them unapproachable to, we'll call them laymen. And I never viewed myself as higher or lower than anyone else. And so a lot of people do that. And so I imagine that's something you probably come across too.
I bring it myself.
Well, but not just that, but just the client to the engineer. Like the client probably views the engineer as the expert in the room. You've got engineers who are used to computer screens and isolation. The expert in the room ends up not being able to communicate very well, and the client says, "Well, this guy doesn't know anything," and then you have an utter breakdown of the project because communication is.
That happens. Yes, that does happen. It's interesting, at least in the profession, the companies I've been exposed to, there's always a reluctance to send, say, the younger staff out to meet with clients. And I'm not sure why, because it's how they learn. And there's also the assumption that once one reaches a certain level of technical capacity and experience in managing projects and working with the technical side of things, that, well, you know what? You could make a good project manager. You make a good contact at the outside because you know all the technical stuff. And that is not necessarily true. The technical side of things has absolutely nothing to do with the people side of things. Except maybe incidentally. They are two different skill sets. And, if it's I kind of chuckle at it once in a while. It's if somebody wants to run a marathon, right? Mm-hmm. They will train to run a marathon. They will practice. They will get up. They will sacrifice. They will invest time, energy, resources in practicing and getting better at those skills that are necessary to be successful in running a marathon. Physical activity, sports, nobody questions that at all. It's expected. It's required. We intuitively understand it. But when I tell you that, you know what, you're having difficulty expressing how this team is having difficulty working together, there are ways that we can approach this to help make the team function much better.
Yeah.
In our relationships and dealing with other people, especially, when we're wanting to express ourselves in situations where there are differences of opinion, emotions run strong, and if it's a chance for the relationship to really tank if we can't manage it poorly. Most people back off, bite their tongue, or they'll enter into it and manage it poorly.
Yeah.
And then bad things will ensue. But there are ways, there are methods, techniques that we can use to help guide the process through those difficult conversations. It doesn't guarantee that good things will happen, but it does create the situation that invites the best possible success for the outcome. Sometimes that outcome is we're done, but other times you can maintain it or even build trust in the relationship. And when we can get to a point where we can do that and handle ourselves in those sorts of situations for our own good and for the good of the other person or other people, life is so much better.
Yeah.
And the principles are not difficult themselves. Understanding them, it's the implementing, it's the doing. That's where we fall down.
Yeah. And I also feel like a lot of the times managers get really mad because they do a good job. Because that doesn't make them good managers. And I feel like a lot of managing is communication skills. And so you could be great at your job and do what needs to happen in your industry to get the job done. But if you don't have the communication skills, then leading a team will inevitably be difficult. And so I imagine you kind of help managers understand who their team is, how they operate. You have to take the 6 working geniuses, working geniuses, 6 ways of genius, and and then you were telling me that these are the results, and this is how you function. So if you have a person who functions like this, you can kind of can you get more detail?
Working geniuses, it is an assessment. There's so many. Real colors, disc assessment, Myers-Briggs, which is actually the form. Heavens. There's Harrison assessment, and all sorts of things. But Enneagram is another one, Kepler Life Languages, and they're all really, most of those are based on communication styles. How we best present ourselves? What is the information that the other person like to receive? And how can we, foster that interaction with people? What I liked about the Working Geniuses, and that made me want to investigate and certified in it, is that it is less a personality tool and more of a productivity tool. Which to me that was a little different take on things.
Yeah.
And it fit a niche that really needed to be there for some time. And it's the concepts are really accessible.
Well, yeah,
I can easily understand.
Ultimately, who cares who I am? That's not really what I'm trying to figure out. It's how can I function better?
Mm-hmm.
And understanding who you are can help you function better. But if you don't have a strategy for functioning better, then knowing who you are is
it's only half the answer.
Yeah, half the battle for sure.
Or at least about half, but certainly a significant part of it.
Yeah. And knowing who you are is no easy task.
The question has many aspects and elements to it. You're right.
Yeah.
The Working Genius, what it does is, the concept is that for anything to get done, there are 6 steps that have to happen. And happily enough, they all spell out a word called widget.
Okay.
The 6 steps that have to happen are wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, and tenacity. And what they're finding is that people typically have 2 working geniuses, and that is those activities in which we find joy. It's not work; it's fun, and we derive energy from it. And we can do this all day long and a little bit beyond, and it's just it's our happy spot of type of activities. So wonder. I am my geniuses are wonder and discernment. Wonder, I love looking at the world around me and asking, what if this were different? What if I came to Smitty today and did a podcast?
Yeah.
What would my life be like after that? What would be different? But wondering is good enough.
And whenever I took that test, I found out I'm also a wonder. So
yes.
And while I was taking that test, I was breaking down how can I make this test better? All those things. Match how I would want the test to be portrayed. And I just couldn't help myself but like go through those processes. So I would say that's what it is.
It is a tool. It can be helpful. To the extent it's helpful, we run with it. But I find it in my own life to be pretty accurate. So one wonder is wondering about the world, what can be different, and what would it be like. And typically for a wonder, that's enough. The inventor takes the wondering and says, that's a good wondering. Let's make something new to address that. Typically something entirely new and bring that into the world. But when inventors are creative and coming up with new things, they're not necessarily the best at discerning whether or not those things are workable.
Yeah.
That's where discernment comes in. The discerners are not data driven, but they are internal. They are very able to see patterns and connections intuitively that others just gloss over and miss. And they tend to have a very good feel for what will work, what will not, and how it will work and how it will not.
I got an interesting tidbit for you. Do you know where the word intelligent comes from?
No, I do not.
So it comes from the Latin intelligio, which means to pick out, to discern. Okay. So ever since I learned this, I think about that intelligence equals various versions of intelligence, which is just like they're able to pick out which will whatever objective that they're trying to reach. That's what intelligence is just being able to pick that. Yeah.
Coming back to what you're starting this, the words that we use today, that's some of the same meanings that they used to.
I feel like intelligence is co-opted a few more meanings, but I think when you look at the etymology, it kind of gives you a better understanding of what it is that we're talking about. And even though that might not be how we commonly use it, that doesn't mean that commonly using it doesn't have a deeper understanding.
That makes sense.
So discernment, I find myself discerning things quite often.
I'm right there with you. In the act of discernment comes galvanizing, which is basically rallying the troops. An idea has been wondered at, it's been invented, it's been discerned, so it's narrowed down to at least the point of least possible stupidity. And from there, that's the greatest chance of success. And from there, the galvanizer says, "This is a great. We should rally the troops and get this going." And so they help bring people together and generate enthusiasm and generate a sense of purpose and passion in people to help get this thing done. And then after galvanizing, they enable people hear the galvanizer and they say, "This is fantastic. It's a great idea. I'm on board." And they help create the systems, the structure, and help get that stuff in place so that the people with tenacity can come in and say, this is a great idea. I love it. We're excited on board. You have given it enablement people. You have given us everything we need to just get the job done. And then the people with tenacity are the ones who they take the idea, here's the stuff, and they make it happen. They wrestle down those last minute obstacles and take that just get everything done in that last mile to bring the project to completion. And like I said, wonder and discernment. Those are your geniuses. Mine too. But the other side of the working genius is the working frustration. The frustration. Imagine a coffee cup. Coffee cup, right? It's got a lid on it. Put coffee in here, put a lid on it, and then the coffee stays warm a long time. Put the lids on. This is your working genius. If we took the lid off, and the coffee would cool faster, right? That would be your working competencies. Your things you can do. I can do it. It's not really what I like, but I can do it for a while. And then your working frustrations would be as if I had this coffee cup here, and it had a hole in the bottom. Right? You can fill up with coffee all day long, but until you it's not going to retain any warmth, any joy. Working frustrations are the things that just suck the life out of us. We can do them, but we do not like to do them. We actually like to the tendency is for us to put things off, to take shortcuts, and just to generally avoid doing them for as long as possible, even though we know that it really shouldn't be done. But the weird thing is, there are people who actually like to do that stuff. My frustrations are enablement and tenacity. I can do them, but it's not really where I want to live, and I don't want to do them for very long. I know that. But there are people out there who, for whatever reason, they love it. I can't fathom. I don't know why, but that's the way we. But what I like about the working geniuses is that it is a productivity tool. The implications for it for conducting meetings are amazing for an understanding of how people operate. Why can't Fred put the cover to his TPS reports like we're doing? Fred hates this kind of crap. He hates doing this stuff. It's got applications for hiring. For if you have someone who's a great cultural fit, they work well, but their roles or duties within an organization are you're falling, you have your internal review, and you need to get better at this and this, and but it's one of their frustrations. Well, can they be shifted to somebody else and provide them an opportunity to work more in their genius? Something that they thrive at, let somebody else who actually loves this stuff is something that they can do. But my favorite thing about it is that it gives people a more of an insight into not just their own behavior, but the behavior of the people around them. You know, it's the emotional intelligence, right? It's the big thing now it's really come to the forefront. At the bottom of the emotional intelligence pyramid is self-awareness, is basically understanding ourselves and our emotions and how we feel. It's also trust. That translates into trust at the bottom of the work find dysfunctions of teams pyramid. You can think of trust in a couple of different ways. One is, it's the ability to predict someone's behavior, and I give for this report here, he's going to correct the typos and make it look right, and then check all the numbers, things like that. I can predict that behavior. But there's another definition that is very helpful. The trust is, the confidence that other people on the team, other people in the relationships that I have, that their interests are, they are open and honest. They have good intentions towards the relationship, towards the team. They're not out for personal gain. They're out for the team, for the relationship, not just for themselves. And that, it is in the Working Geniuses model helps us to understand that so-and-so is not behaving like we would expect. Why is that? And it's because they are not doing these things, not because they're bad people, but it's because it's in a place where they don't like to go. And things that they like to do. They're great over here, not so much over here. It helps bring an understanding of seeing that other person as a person. Hey, here are some of the vulnerabilities that they have, which is actually another part of that trust cycle is that, we can actually be vulnerable, tell ourselves about our shortcomings without fear of those being used against us. And if you can bring that level of trust, vulnerability to the relationship, that is a big part of building trust.
See, and I'm kind of like a sea cucumber when it comes to vulnerability. I don't know if you know anything about sea cucumbers, but their defense mechanism is to eject their guts out behind them so that any predators will feed on their guts while they escape. So, I do a similar thing, which is I throw my vulnerabilities out there. That's kind of how I operate the work. Just put my strengths will be my strengths. And I just throw my weaknesses out there, and either people who are going to attack me, which are my strengths, or they're going to help. But hiding my weaknesses doesn't seem to do me any good, because if I hide them, then I don't focus on them. And then I don't. If I'm not aware of what my weaknesses are, how am I going to be? How am I going to be? So I've had people compliment me on my ability to be vulnerable. To me, it's probably what my self wanted to do at one point, which is just look. We live in a society where we're so safe right now that you're not actually. I grew up when sticks and stones don't. Sticks and stones break your bones, your words will never hurt me. So I have vulnerabilities. Like, say what you want. Weaknesses that reflects more does on me. So
it does. Kudos on that outlook. For a lot of people for whom that is not the case. Talking about shared vulnerabilities. management and leadership are not the same thing. Those are still two different skill sets. But leadership, one of the things one needs to lead is actually one of the key tenets of a leader is sharing vulnerability to create that level of trust. So you kind of like short circuit all the incremental sharing vulnerability that happens in the normal relationship and just throw it all out there.
Throw it all out there, make a feeding frenzy, and we'll see who my friends are and who the people that I need to stay away from are.
Think of all the time that cuts down. You know? And then you don't have to worry about where you stand with people. Okay, well now I know.
Yeah, exactly. And in my case, I think I shock a lot of people in how good a lot of people actually are. Like, I don't really come across a whole lot of people who take weaknesses. I mean, there are people, but it's, I learned to play chess whenever I was young. So I was always taught, even pool. I used to play a lot of pool, and it was always, you have to think 2 shots ahead. And so, yeah, I throw my vulnerabilities out there, but don't get it wrong. I've developed strategies for whoever reveals themselves. I know what to do with them. So, take a shot at me. If it's just words, it's words. If you're going to come at me in any other way, well, nothing was really stopping you to begin with. Now you just got information that you can work with, but you don't have all the information. I didn't give you all the information. We're playing Texas Hold'em and lay down 4 cards. And I say, all right, these are all my cards, but I still have a card. You still don't know what that card is. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't know if that's extreme honesty or extreme vulnerability that I practice. I haven't really thought of it that way. But I didn't realize that being vulnerable is a leadership trait, and it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Whenever I was taking the Working Geniuses test, it had asked some questions about, like, have you ever been able to get people to work on a project? Have you ever, basically these leadership questions? And I'm like, thinking back, and I'm like, I've never been in an authority position before, ever. Like, I always felt like whenever I was, working a job or whatever, it's like, yeah, I could do this. I could move this whole situation better, but you're not giving me authority. And then it's also, you have to work with, like, leadership is not having the authority. Leadership is leading even without the authority. That's a struggle, because authority makes it to where the people are willing to listen to you, whereas leadership is where people don't listen to you.
Yeah. Authority can help. There's a danger in authority.
Yeah.
Authority without understanding is not a good thing.
Yeah.
But what we talked about there, I had a conversation recently with some people, one of the bank manager, and this person said, there's someone, she had an employee who the employee wants to lead, and the manager wants the person to lead. There's for a healthy, self-aware leader, they want to delegate authority.
Yeah.
Delegate leadership. They want people to take the initiative. The concern is, for most of them, is that it won't be done in the way that they just want to make sure it will done well.
Yeah.
And they're a lot of times less concerned about things being done right so much as avoiding catastrophe.
Yeah. Whenever we do events with Fired Up, to some degree, I am the leader of that crew, and it's, it's my fiance, and my mom, and my stepdad, and my niece, and my niece's mom, and my aunt, and my uncle, whomever. And to some degree, I am the leader of that crew. I don't ever really think of myself as the leader of the crew. I think of it as, this is the job, I've done it the most. So, me and my fiance have done it the most, so I got the experience to make sure I can successfully do that job. I don't think of myself as the leader of that crew. But in all reality, so leader of that crew has to make sure everything gets done. And I can't do everything myself.
So you share the vulnerability that you have, and you have established the expectations, right, for what needs to happen, and you have helped establish also the purpose. Those are the three key elements of leadership. Not necessarily all of them, but there's three very important ones.
Yeah.
That have to happen.
And then after I had taken that test, I was talking to my fiance, Krista, about the test, and I was like, I've never been in a leadership position. And then she's like, well, what about this? And what about this? And I'm like, oh, I guess I have been in some leadership positions, and I just never thought of them as leadership positions.
It's like that's like the last time we talked. We were going to go through a SWOT analysis, and before we got into it, you were talking, and thought, well, we could probably start with threats here. What are the threats that you see? And you were like, I don't know. You sound like three of them. Just before we even really officially started.
I mean, self-analysis is difficult.
It is.
It's difficult to see. Well, and I feel like this is why self-assessment is difficult, is because assessment is an outside source objectively viewing the inside source. And so whenever you assess yourself, you have to become the outside source looking upon the inside source, both of which is you. And so it kind of creates this blinder.
It does.
Because we view assessment as this outside, assessment happens from the outside.
Most often.
Yeah.
And especially when talking in terms of relationships, behavior. Behavior is is the most obvious, recognizable thing that we see in a relationship. Be it husband, wife, boss, worker, team members, work at play at home. It is behavior that we see. They go in, it's the popular thing we call them now is 360 evaluations in businesses. And what happens a lot, especially when doing the first time, is that the person who's being evaluated, you go around their 360 and how they think they are presenting themselves to other people is not accurate.
Yeah.
But it's like you talked about, there's a difference between our self-assessment and the others. And that is what this emotional intelligence, this soft skills, these are all relational skills, is what they are. And this issue has been around since people. But we're getting a little more refined and better at it and understanding it. But had a point to this. I was going somewhere. Relate to behavior. Behavior is the one thing that we see and respond to. But that behavior just doesn't happen in a vacuum. There are reasons why we have the behaviors that we have. And like that first, that lowest level on the emotional intelligence pyramid is self-awareness. And when what really needs to happen there is, there's so many things that we'd like to be. We pile ourselves on with expectations, our own and others, about how our world should be and how we respond to people around us. But it's not, a lot of times that masks who we really are and how we deal with the world around us. And so that first step is actually seeking clarity. Who the hell are we?
Yeah.
Why do we do the things that we do? I reacted in a certain manner. I said something I shouldn't have said. Why did I do that? What happened there? And the first step in getting better at managing our relationships is to see ourselves clearly. Mm-hmm. Once we do that, then we can actually start to see others clearly. Because until we take the blinders off on our own biases, our own preconceptions, our own lack of knowledge about the other person and their circumstances, we aren't seeing them clearly.
Yeah.
And then the more, I guess, the higher level of relationship, and the more important it is to be able to see that clearly. In a business relationship, an organization, we don't have to know their childhood hopes and dreams, but we do need to know their how they function, their thoughts, their values, their in the business organization relationship. Something a degree of familiarity that is suitable for that, which is different, say, you would have between yourself and your fiance.
Yeah,
it would be more in depth, dealing with much more emotions.
Yeah, driving a business with your fiance adds more complexity.
Oh, I don't doubt that at all. That is, that's well done, man.
Yeah. So, one of the things I was thinking about this last night. This was a question that I think last night I finally put some words to something that I've been trying to figure out.
Fantastic.
For a while, which is you have this post. I'm gonna say post-depression era mentality of independence, even though like
wait, which depression?
The Great Depression.
Okay, 30s, 40s.
Yeah. Where everyone is kind of like, or I could be wrong. Maybe this has just been a setting of human nature forever. But you have, to me, what seems like two things going head to head, which is this idea of self-independence, like not relying on others, and doing things on your own. And then, have you ever heard of the article? What is it? It's something about how a pencil was made. Can't think of the actual article. But anyways, it just kind of talks about how no one individual can make a pencil.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there's this constant battle between you have to be self-reliant,
mm-hmm.
but you exist in a world where you can't possibly do everything. And so where are the lines for those? Is it foolhardy to think that you have to be self-reliant, or are we all just trying to make the pencil? So, am I describing this wrong? Following along. Because it kind of feeds into, the relationship aspect of like, I can be a better person, but if the person who I'm talking to isn't also trying to be a better person, then it's a good conversation. Because if my intentions are true, but your intentions aren't, then that's going to affect the rest of the conversation.
It will.
But also, it's just trying to suss this out, because it was the first time I've said it. So I'm trying to still figure it out. But like, you have self-reliance, you have to pay your own bills, you got to make sure that your household is in order, you got to do all these things, and at the same time you're doing self-care and all this, you also have to be able to make money to pay your bills and make money to keep your house in order. But then you've got the other side. Well, I can't make money without other people also. Like Jellies and Jams, sure, we can make it in the kitchen, but we wouldn't be able to sell them. And so we have to rely on someone else who has the skill set, has the equipment, has the facility to make it for us. so that I can then take my skill set and get it out there. Any thoughts on that? Really, so I don't know if I'm breaking this down well.
So what I think I heard you say, I don't know if this is halfway accurate, is where is the dividing line between being self-sufficient, whatever that means, and relying on others.
Right.
So it's somewhere in between the two extremes. There's a happy medium.
Or is it delusional to think that one can be self-reliant?
It goes back to a matter of degrees.
Yeah. Because I know people who they won't ask for help.
I guess for a pure true cynic, maybe it could be.
Well, I know people who they won't ask for help.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, it's almost biologically innate in them that they can't ask for help. I am quick to ask for help. Sometimes too quick to ask for help. But I admire people who take it upon themselves to eat the whole thing. Whereas there's 25 of us who are ready to help you eat this elephant. All you got to do is just say, where to start? Yeah.
Back up a little bit. How much do we know about the other person who is eating the elephant? How much do we know about their background, the situation, their story? How many other things are going on there of which we're completely unaware?
This is true.
But you're right. I think a lot of it is talked about in terms of money. And Morgan Housel, Psychology of Money. What I loved about his book is that within it, everybody, most people probably read to think this is money, this is how people handle it, this is how they do things. But to me, what it spoke more to is this is how we all are. We all have different values. We all have different ideas about what it means to have a happy life, for safety, security, comfort. We're all different, and it's all okay. The way he describes it, people don't make foolish decisions with their money, unless somebody else that's a value that somebody else puts on them. They make the decisions with their money and how they handle their cash in ways that make them happy.
And honestly, you could take money out of the equation and just
substitute whatever in there, whatever you want.
Right. Everyone is just trying to have a good time for as long as they can.
And we're in a sense, we're all muddling through.
Yeah.
Some of us are just muddling a little bit better than others. And also, it also depends on circumstances and time of life. Because there are periods when things are great, life is easy, and other times when this is hard. It's just really hard.
Yeah.
So we don't know how much roadkill they ate before they got the elephant.
Right.
that you want.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah. How long have they been staring at this elephant trying to eat it before the rest of us showed up? Yeah. That's pretty bad. Yeah, life is interesting like that. There's the myriad of people and their approaches to life is awesome. But what I find interesting is as much as we all say, like, there's some pretty solid practices. And you could be someone who grew up in San Francisco or somebody who grew up in New Jersey. Yeah, you grew up, family histories are different, circumstances are different, but somehow there's similarities that we can all rely on to create an amicable situation. And one of the similarities is simply we're all just here to have a good time. There's only parents. Right? I don't know anybody who's trying to.
I wonder sometimes, you see people out there.
Well, yeah.
Hopefully that's just a momentary lapse of vision.
But I don't even think it's a momentary lapse of recent. Maybe it is. But honestly, it could very well just be that they think that that's how they're going to have a good time for the longest time, right? Whether or not everyone else agrees, honestly, doesn't even matter if everyone else agrees. Now, don't get me wrong, don't encroach my good time because you're trying to have a good time, right? That's kind of where compassion and empathy come in. It's like, yeah, we're all here to have a good time, but I don't want my good time to cause you to.
Would that make your good time worse? If you knew
Yeah. Yeah, but then there's another side to that when you look at. I like to play city building games, things like that. There's one game where I thought was really interesting because you have to provide needs to your residential housing, and as you provide the needs, they'll develop their house. But then you have all these jobs, all these resource gathering jobs. That certain level houses are the ones that do certain jobs. And when I was playing the game, I was having a really hard time because I want every residence to raise up to its highest level. But the way the game is played is that some of those residences have to stay at the lower level because those people are the ones that do other jobs. And so I guess this is more exploitation. Like, we're in America, doing pretty well, but our cell phones are still slaves. The cobalt still known as slaves. So it's like a good time. And though me and you aren't encouraging on each other's good times, somehow our advanced society relies on other people's good times. Or maybe that's just a mix that they're trying to tell us in a cheap way.
that is a good.
But then the thing is, like, when everyone has this aspiration, not everyone wants to live. Some people are pretty happy.
Wants to take care of, wants to worry about. Do you want to spend more time worrying about things and investing your time and resources in maintaining things, or um, or or are there other things?
Yeah,
Maybe research, or they're go on vacations and spend and learn about new places, visit new people and places and things.
not that I'm saying that these slaves and cobalt mines are having a good time and this is the preferred way of living life. However, in some of those scenarios, their other option is to starve because they don't work in the mine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, the world's a complex place.
It is a complex place.
And it's arrogant to think of it in black and white. It's naive to think that it could all be black. Yeah. Life's so interesting. It's so complex.
It very much is, especially when you get more than one person together.
Yeah, exactly. So I had taken a philosophy of self-cultivation class, and I came across the terms together. And then the other day, because it's been a while since I was in college, well, I've been in graduate also. But then I started to look at skepticism. Apparently, it's more. What I recall of it was that skepticism is people who are trying to better themselves, raise themselves up, and not just like better ourselves and get a better house, but better ourselves in personal, bodily, mental health kind of way. What I didn't remember is that's mostly people monks who, you know, won't eat, won't drink alcohol, that's a that's a pretty narrow window, and then that led me into learning about Zoroastrianism, and then learning about Manichaeism. Are you familiar with either of these?
They're also the interesting kind of question we last 36 hours. The context.
It's interesting because Zoroastrianism is pretty freaking old. One of the so according to Wikipedia, uh, it was developed somewhere between second millennia BC and 800 BC. They're not really sure where. They just know that that's a that 1200 year span is somewhere where it was developed. But the story is that it developed in Iran, and in Iran at the time, culturally polytheistic, and Zoroastrianism uh, developed a religion that was more monotheistic. Um, it was one of the first monotheistic religions. And what I found really interesting is he developed it in reaction. One of the things that he had an issue with is the people of his culture overused drugs, we'll call them. What I thought was interesting is one of the drugs that he considered them overusing. And he didn't say don't use them. He was just saying use them in moderation. But one of them was ephedra. It was a plant called ephedra. And yeah, man, what is ephedra? Turns out ephedra is a plant grows in the temperate zone, which means just north of the equator, throughout the Mediterranean, throughout the Middle East, throughout India, China, through Mexico, and the southern United States. This plant is just everywhere. So what is it? All in look further into it, ephedra is actually where we get Sudafed. Yeah. And I thought that was interesting. And I always find it interesting when you have ancient religions using various plants for religious purposes. And I don't know what kind of experiences they were getting off of just the plant ephedra, but I do know that we use that for what is basically low dose methamphetamines. So I can imagine why that would become overused, just like caffeine. If it's going to give you energy and focus.
Opium.
Yeah. Yeah. Opium's another one that gets commonly used pretty early on in human civilization. Manichaeans. Are you familiar with St. Augustine?
City? Person?
Person.
Okay.
City's named after him. But he existed in the 3rd century, and he was raised as a Manichaean. And in his book Confessions, he admits to when he was younger there was a plant with fruit that only the priestly class of the Manichaeans could eat, because in Manichaeanism there was this belief that there is a constant battle between light and dark, and that at one point dark is materialism. At one point, materialism captured light in, and it is the goal of light to escape the darkness. And that's what we are. Is our bodies are the material, and our soul is light trying to escape this fruit that the priestly class would consume, allowed them to help release their light or something. That's all very fast. Don't hold to it. explain it. Uh, but no, I always found those things interesting. Um, you get into these older religions where the priests were your only access to. Well, and I'm trying to figure out how to pair this because there's bettering your life and getting a better car, getting a job, but then there's bettering your life in the sense of knowing who you are, knowing the word, and just realizing that happiness doesn't exist in fancy house. Happiness exists within yourself. Choose to be. One of the things that I struggle with is if you're not happy now, what makes you think having these other things that you want is going to bring you? Anyways, whatever that type of self-improvement
It's a cynic in me. It says it's another dopamine hit, it's another thing, it's another emotional. You get this, there's a euphoria that's associated with it. It changes because it's purely emotional. There's nothing transformational in it.
Well, and at one point it was a keeping up with the Joneses, right? Like, oh, they got a nice car, so I'm gonna get a nicer car, right? So it was competition amongst your neighbors. Um, but like whenever you're bettering yourself, um, you're bettering yourself, you're really into the competition amongst your neighbors. Don't get me wrong, people will do that, and it's something that they need to work on.
That can be twisted. Yeah.
But no, ancient cultures, they felt that, the priestly class, it was their job to help the lower class develop in this way. And the priestly class knew all the answers. They wouldn't give you all the answers because you can't handle all the answers all at once. Because if I gave you an atomic bomb, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you accidentally set it off?
No.
Well,
but
what if you didn't know it was an atomic bomb? I gave it to you. So I can kind of understand that, like, you have to give information in an order.
I look at it and I look at I have a daughter. When she was really small, there were things she physically could not do. She can't open the closet, can't reach it, walk. Certain things that she had to be helped with. As she got older, let's go outside. You can play here, but don't go near the street. The older she got and became aware of, these are cars, these are dangerous things. The older she got, the more experience she had, the more judgment, discernment that she was able to exercise, the more those strictures sort of went away. Sure, you can ride your bike. Don't ride it on the street. Okay, you can ride it on the street. Be careful, look both ways, those sort of things. But as she matured, the need for all those boundaries became less and less. As she became more, I'll use the word self-aware here, all those boundaries and things were still there. You still need to pay attention, still need to be careful. But the locus of decision making, the agency, is transferred more and more from the parent to the child.
Jordan Peterson has a quote that hit pretty close to home, which is, children need to be able to do dangerous things safely.
Yeah.
Because that's how you figure it out. You should be encouraged to go up to your boundaries, look over the edge, look both ways, look for oncoming traffic.
Yep.
Make the determination whether it's safe. Figure out what's going to secure your safety. And there's a friend of mine who's told me that in some settings, if you know that it's wrong, it's okay to do it. But if you don't know that's wrong to do, it's not okay. Because it's simply knowing the context of the situation, whether or not you can do it safely. And, and I kind of lean more towards that moralism, where it's like there's, something's not always human. It's absolute. It's not that morals are absolute. At least I believe that morals are absolute. It's not the case that murder is always wrong. Because I could certainly give you cases where murdering would not be the right thing to do. Look, I'm not saying go out and do it. But if you're defending yourself, you kill that person.
So it goes back to what is it's etymology.
Yeah. And I guess if you're defending yourself, it's not killing.
That's all you ask.
So like, I don't think that moralism is necessary. I'm not the one to tell everyone else what to think. You have to make that determination on yourself. But as we've already discovered in this conversation, we're here for a good time. We're not here for a long time. Let's try and help everyone.
I want to help people be the best version of themselves that they can be.
And
Not sure it's a task, but they talked about happiness, having a good time, and a lot of it, what does that mean for people? And there's actually a psychology of happiness, psychology of joy, and what, according to them, what brings true contentment in life, we call it happiness, joy, whatever, is really the relationships that we have and how meaningful are they to us. You never met an atheist in a foxhole, and on their deathbed, you never say, just that I only had 5 more hours at the office. Right. At the extremes of physical limitations, it's what is the meaning that we find in our lives is from the people that we surround ourselves with. And if we can be better at being ourselves, and we are able to conduct ourselves in ways that invite the best from other people that they can give, that helps us. It makes our world better.
Yeah.
And it also provides a place so that they can make their world better too. And to me, everybody wins. The more that we can do that.
I just want to leave the place. I just want to leave this place in better shape than I found it. That's all. Whatever that means, however little that actually amounts to, honestly, that will be. Are you familiar with the Egyptian version? It's the afterlife, where I believe it's Enos, where's your soul?
It sounds familiar. I'm not thoroughly familiar with it at this time.
Anyways, when you die, God Enos takes you, and before you're basically determining which afterlife you're going to live, he takes your soul, puts it on a scale, and weighs it against the feather. And if your soul is lighter than the feather, then you go on to it. If your soul is heavier than the feather, then and the things that weigh your soul down, guilt, shame, all the things that weigh us down in living world. And me, as long as I leave this place, so I know that you said that you got to get out of here. It's almost me, but I wanted you to try it. You said that you already are a fan of fire jellies and jams.
Yeah, strawberry habanero is my favorite so far. That's the only one I actually tried.
Well, that's fair. So I grabbed some crackers, and I'm gonna have you try the other two that you haven't tried.
What's mine? Okay.
I mean, we have to do this considering Fired Up Jellies and Jams is our sponsor, is my sponsor. It's the only reason why I get to be here. And
I love the Fired Up podcast, by the way.
But here, so here's some crackers. I'll start you off with the sweet one. It's a strawberry vanilla rhubarb jam.
Huh. How did you come up with these flavor profiles? AI?
That's proprietary knowledge.
Put things in a pot, see what works.
My mom raised me to be a strawberry loving person, and so I had a friend who made a carrot habanero jam. I told him I thought a strawberry habanero jelly would be good.
Does your mom know you're have a peach based, not strawberry jam?
My mom betrayed me. That's her favorite.
Look at you.
I developed two products for her to enjoy, and she likes the third one the best. So that one's our strawberry vanilla rhubarb. I really like it on cinnamon rolls.
Yeah, I can see that. Taste that.
One of the first times that I fell in love with that one was
that kind of tastes like a cinnamon roll, actually.
One of the first times that I fell in love with it, I was at a winery and somebody had some deer summer sausage, and we were just slicing it up and just taking those slices and dipping it straight out of the jar.
I can see that.
And the saltiness from the summer sausage with the sweetness, and then you get like that fresh strawberry flavor, and then that sweet vanilla flavor, and the rhubarb just brings some tartness just to kind of the whole thing.
And with the vanilla kind of scared me in there, but it's very subtle. It's not overpowering at all.
Yeah.
It is good.
Yeah. And a lot of people, whenever they try it, if they try it by itself, they're like, that's super sweet. And I think that a lot of people just associate vanilla flavoring with sweetness.
Yeah.
And so they taste it, and then they taste the vanilla, and then in their brains it goes, that's sweet. So
I can see that.
And then the other one that you haven't tried is the peach cinnamon habanero jam, and it goes really good on pork chops, turkey sandwiches. When we first developed these and we were having friends and family try it, the people that were trying it were telling me how they thought that they would use it, and we went home and tried some of those applications, and it worked really well. And so anything that we suggest is something that customers have suggested to us. We tried it. We liked it to tell other people.
Yes.
That one goes really good on pork chops, sandwiches, and then a lot of people will do meatballs in the crock pot. And traditionally, they'll do like a grape jelly and chili sauce. Let's put some on.
Oh, that's good. That is
and the heat on it is just enough to say hello.
Yes,
it's not overbearing.
No, it's that. It doesn't fade too quickly, but it's that happy medium where it just lingers a little bit, like a good friend.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why I developed the heat profile the way I did is because spicy things can accent flavors, just like salt accents flavors.
Putting cayenne in chocolate now.
Yeah, but one of the problems with spicy food is it's so easy to go too much, and so you can go from an accent to a basically one note product. And I didn't want that, so I wanted to make sure that whenever you're trying our Sinful Peach Habanero Jam, that you taste the fresh peach, and then you taste the cinnamon, and then you swallow, and you get that heat, and then the peach and that cinnamon kind of come back.
Well, success, because that's what happens. What I love about these is the flavors are great. They do blend well together. I can the suggestions for how to use them. I can see those. But what's the ones with the heat? There is heat.
Yeah.
It's not. You notice it. It's like a lot of other products where it's spicy. It's like no, it's not.
It's
not at all.
It's a fine line to run. And a lot of people hear habanero and they're like, oh, that's too spicy for me. Which when my friend made the carrot habanero jam, I thought the same thing. I was like, habanero, no, thank you. I'm not interested in that.
Carrot habanero?
Mm-hmm. And with the sweetness from the sugar and the sweetness from the carrots, it really helped back off that habanero heat. And so we took that same mentality in this. And so our strawberry habanero jelly, you should get sweet strawberry on the front, and then heat on the back, which should...
You do. It's fantastic.
Yes. Yeah.
They all are very good. But the one thing, but other than trying to flag you down and say, "Hey, I want my ginger jellies," how do I get this?
So
this was entirely unscripted, by the way.
No, you can get it on our website, firedupjnj.com, and on our website, if you're looking for a store near you, we do have a store locator on our shop page.
Are there certain stores is it possible just name off some stores, or you may see these? I know I bought mine at Kroger.
Yeah, so we got into, we're in Chinooks in the St. Louis area, and we're in Kroger in the Louisville area, and Kroger in Southern. And honestly, so we've got about 250 retail locations across the 13 states. So honestly, just use that store. That's what. That's good. But the other thing that you could also do is if you have a store that you shop at that doesn't carry it, there we go. You'd be surprised how we can just ask people, hey, this product is fantastic. And the more times you do it, the more likely they'll bring it. Some stores, I know Shooks, I'm pretty sure Shooks has like a program where if you request it, they'll bring it. Larger chain stores, it's hit or miss whether or not they'll do something like that. But mom and pop shops, which I highly suggest doing as much shopping at your local grocery stores, owned locally, they're easier to get into. And if you ask them, they'll bring us in. We've had that happen several times. So.
Fantastic.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it, David.
My pleasure.
It was great talking to you. And let's do this again sometime.
Thank you for the invitation. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, if we do this again, I will still get to sample the anchor at the end.
The original plan was to have cream cheese with our jellies on the table.
Just gets in the way. That's good on the Ritz cracker.
But yeah, because this is just my second episode, still working out all the kinks. Do what you can. Focus on the rest later. All right.
That sounds good. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.